why you should learn a martial art, or why are martial arts or fighting sports such a big beneficial thing when it comes to improvement, development, your mindset, your confidence, and the majority areas of your life. I'll give you my personal reasons on why martial arts or a fighting sport has helped develop me into the man I am today. My experience, I used to be an amateur boxer and I've had a bunch of amateur fights. I've lost a lot, I've won a bit, and I've won a few competitions when I was younger, and being knocked down, I've been dropped, I've been everything. I've done it in when it comes to the depths of boxing. And the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of a benefit or a beneficial thing is when you do a fighting sport. I'll tell you this, when you do a fighting sport, you live the fighting sport. When you train for it, when you train to compete, you live it. So you eat. So let's, for example, with boxing, you eat boxing, you sleep boxing. Decisions that you make revolve around whether it will affect your training and your performance at training or fighting in the ring. Those two aspects, you constantly are thinking about those two decisions. When I was younger, I was 15. I was 15 when I started doing having amateur matches. And that discipline, that lifestyle, that thing where I had to constantly make pure and good choices to a certain extent, because if I didn't make the good choice, if I didn't make the right choice to make sure that I was as energy filled as possible, as positive as I could be, as confident as I could be in that ring or in that training, or to be able to push myself as much as I could, I needed the mental energy, I needed the physical energy too. So I had to sleep well, I had to be disciplined, I couldn't drink, I couldn't smoke, I couldn't do anything. And that's created the discipline and the lifestyle to know how to have a simple and minimal life. And because if you sacrifice the late nights and the partying and the drugs and the alcohol and the socializing and the fitting in part, when you sacrifice that constantly growing up for a sport or for an aspect of you want to be the best that you can be in that ring and in the training, that aspect helps you out so much when you put that into anything else. When you try go into a journey and you have a fighter's mentality on any other journey, it's very, very hard to compete with you. And the reason why it's very, very hard to compete with you is because you had to revolve your life around a fighting sport where you could get hurt if you slip up. And I think the same thing's true in life in general in that aspect at the same time. You can't slip up. You have to live this passion. You have to live and breathe and make decisions based on whether these things will impact negatively or positively to what your purpose is or to what your journey is. So coming back to the topic, martial arts and fighting sports, anything in general. It could be jiu-jitsu, it could be MMA, it could be kickboxing, it could be boxing, it could be karate, it could be whatever you find interesting, whatever you feel like you can fall into and you relate to, and that you have somewhere where you can go that caters to a fighting sport, and two, able to bring the best out of you in that fighting sport and find out more about yourself. That leads me on to my second point. Why martial arts and fighting sports are great for you, from my experience, is you find out more about yourself. You find out what you're really made of. People get messed up when they think about fighting sports and when you're competing in competitions and stuff, and when they see two boxers fighting each other, the two boxers aren't actually fighting each other. They're competing against themselves. What I really mean is the fight is constantly beating its own thoughts. All these negative thoughts are coming into your head consistently, constantly, telling them that they're tired, telling them that they can't breathe, that their arms are sore, that they can't lift their hands up, that they feel unfit, that they can't keep walking forward, their legs are weak, that the guy is faster than them, they can't hit hard enough, blah, blah, blah. They have to try and figure it out constantly. Whenever it gets tough, whenever it gets hard, they have to constantly find a way, find a gap, find a moment, find a time where they can get the shot off. So you are constantly competing with yourself. It's never been about how fast they were, how hard they hit, how good they were, how much fights they had, whatever the case that is. It was always about beating your own demons, fighting your own thoughts, pushing yourself further than you could push yourself, to the point where eventually you find out you could beat them if you do the right shot. You're human, you've got two arms, two legs, two eyes, just like them. So why not? Why can't you beat them? And those thoughts are the things that can consume you and negatively affect you if you let it. So the second point and the second aspect that boxing and martial arts help you is it helps you defeat yourself, helps you beat those negative thoughts constantly and consistently. I'll give you an example. Anyone watching that has experienced boxing before, that has had a very, very hard sparring session, you're sparring this person, right? There's this thing called, I think it's called Shark Tank. I'm pretty sure it's called Shark Tank, but you could have about four fighters around the ring, right? And one fighter goes in, he's spars each and every person before he has a rest for 1 round. And then he comes in for 1 round and steps out. And that person that just went in goes and spars the rest of them and then has the rest and then all that sort of stuff. So that each, when you're in that moment where you're the bait, and you're sparring everyone else when they're fresh, that's the mental demons. That's the toughness that comes from it. That's the hard thing. That's the point where you really find out where you can really push yourself, where you can really go to if you push yourself to those limits. If you know what I'm talking about when you talk about those kinds of sparrings, that shit's hard. That shit's difficult. To get hit with a body shot, you're winded, but you can't show it because the next person's about to jump in, and that next person isn't going to go easy on you. He's going to come and try and kill you as well. But that's what fighting is. That's what getting hurt and keeping going is. So that mentality that boxing and fighting and anything it brings to you is a different level. It ain't no game. I mean, I used to say when I was younger and I was actually fighting, I was like, man, I think of this all like a game. It's a game to me. Hit and not get hit. Boxing's boxing. But now there's the other side too, where it's just grit, dog, fights. And that's a development and a side that people need to develop too. The competitiveness, the hunger, the wanting to be better than the next person, to want to conquer the next person, because that is going to be the difference between you getting hurt and you getting hurt, or your family getting hurt, or someone getting killed, or something, anything. It can be that detrimental from the fact that you couldn't take that step or you couldn't stop that person. That's the second aspect I'd have to think of. Another piece of advice, that martial arts or a thing that fighting sports always gave me is that, like, when it comes to the training aspect, when it comes to training, and then the difference between training in a fighting sport and then fighting and competing in a fighting sport, we think that they're all just the same. You train and you fight and that's it. You train and you compete and that's it. The training is separate from the fight and the matches and the competitions. And what I mean by that is the training in itself isn't just for the matches. They're not there to only cater to when you compete in competitions, to win the medals, to win the trophies, to all that sort of stuff. That's not what they're there for. The training is there to keep you mentally composed, mentally in check, consistently. Day in, day out, when you show up for training and you push your fitness, and your chest hurts, and you continuously show up, even though your legs are sore from the day before, even though your arms are sore from the day before, you've got a headache from the day before, and you continuously show up. It's to continuously put yourself in check, discipline yourself, to show up all the time. It's the little things. And because you know what? Some people will end up training their hardest for weeks and weeks and weeks, and they'll come to the day and that fight will be pulled out. It won't happen. Then what? You're obviously gonna feel like shit as a fighter. It's a bad feeling. It's a bad feeling to push yourself that much, because it's not fucking easy. But when you push yourself to that point and then you get to the fight and the fight's not there, the point is that it wasn't even it's two different things. The training, some people struggle to find the motivation to train when there is no match coming up, or when you've got no competition happening. When you've got no competition happening, they feel, and the thing that fighting taught me is that it's the development and your improvement for yourself, if we're talking about self-development in correlation to fighting sports and martial arts, is that training, fighting, I develop myself and I improve myself for an end goal of being the best father that I can be, of being the best husband that I can be, of being the best overall man that I can be. That is why I develop myself. That is why I improve myself. It is for everyone around me to then follow on to me. When you are training and when you feel discouraged because you don't get the girl you wanted, you don't get that person that you desired. They left you, your girlfriend left you, your ex left you, whatever it is, and now you don't feel like there's any point in improving yourself. Well, there is, because they're two different things. You improving yourself it's never been about actually getting the girl and having the family and all that, even though it actually is. That's the motivation that I tend to think about. I know that's the motivation, but you got to keep the core values at heart. The training was always to keep you in check. Self-development was always to make you the best you can be, not just for that girl, not just for your future family, not just for anything, but for everything and everyone. So if you were in a fighting sport, you were to stop training and you were to give up and you were to be lazy about it, of course you're not going to be ready for those boxing matches. Of course you're not going to be ready to compete in those competitions. You're going to lose. So there is always a motivation, or there is always a reason why you should be training or relating to self-development, always developing yourself. There's always a reason why you should be trying to consistently read books, that you should be trying to better your relationship with yourself by journaling, why you should be trying to learn how to defend yourself in fighting sports, learn how to train your body, push your mind to the limit, all these certain things. Find out ways that you can make money with the skills that you have. Every single area, better your social skills, all that. there's always a reason why you should develop yourself. In the correlation to fighting sports, there's always a reason why you should be training, because training and fighting and having matches are different. So I hope you gain anything from this video at all. I hope this inspires somebody out there to start fighting sport. I promise you, if you're thinking about it, just go choose the martial art or fighting sport that best suits you or in your life right here, right now. If there's a person you know that coaches that fighting sport or martial art, ask them to train you. Ask them to help you, teach you a few things, learn a few things.